excitement contemplating the creation of an entrepreneurial business. And she knew she had one already.
Good morning.
What Ray Kroc had done in his.
I love these early mornings.
All she needed to do was to learn how.
Turn this down a little bit. See, I knew.
Working on your business.
I have no viewers right now, but that's all right because this thing will play back later on. I knew that in order to make getting out my house at 3 o'clock in the morning, I had to rearrange some things. And I hope somebody tunes in right now, because the fact of the matter is I'm going to share with you. Turn this off. I'm going to share with you exactly the way that I've been able to adjust. And what I mean by adjust is, when I initially went into my phase of I wanted change. I wanted to become something different. I wanted to become something better. I think when I looked at my son, my youngest, at that moment I knew that change had to happen. You know, kind of the way I was living my life. I'm not going to say kinda, because I believe that everything comes back around. But the way I was living my life was going to end me up back in prison or dead. So when I started to make my change, I became obsessive. I'm one of these people who does something, and I do it obsessively. I do it to a point of I'm going to do it until I get it, until it's right. I'm obsessed with that. But you grow out of obsessiveness and you grow into wisdom. And that's the cool thing about dealing with older people. See, older people have a certain wisdom that has come as a result of, how can I say it? Of being obsessive, of being compulsive, of being repetitive. Older people have an understanding about how life works. So I would say I learned how to initiate a lot of wisdom. I had to change some things up in order to get out the house at 3:19 in the morning. I had to change some things up. I had to not be so obsessive with a schedule that I said, I'm going to follow this schedule, A, B, C, D, not make any room for adjustments. And if it gets me out the door at 4:19, that's okay because I followed the schedule. In the beginning stages of my growth and of my process, I was all about routine and I was all about schedule, because that's what held me accountable, right? You starting to follow this? That's what held me accountable, was being obsessive. I mean, obsessive to the point where people were calling me an asshole. And mind you, if somebody calls me an asshole, probably because I'm treating you accordingly. But that obsessiveness is what allowed me to stay accountable. See, I don't, there's one person watching, I don't know who the hell it is, I don't care. But if you're watching and you're paying attention, listen to what I just said. The obsessiveness became my accountability. So when I told myself I'm not going to go have any fast food, guess what? I didn't have no fast food. I was accountable to what it is that I said. It didn't matter if I didn't share it with the rest of the world. I said it. It's law inside of me. I got to abide by that. So that obsessiveness in the beginning of my transformation, in the beginning of my journey, gave me the ability to know that I have strength within inside of me to carry through on my word. So I trust myself. I've built trust inside of myself. I am not a liar. I'm not a liar externally. I'm not a liar internally. And I trust myself. And when I learn to trust myself, you ready for this? One person? I learned to trust my voice. When I learned to trust my voice, I learned to follow it. And when I learned to follow it, I learned to say it's okay to deviate from the schedule. It's okay to make slight adjustments in the schedule. But had it not been for those early days obsessiveness, what I ate, had it not been those early day obsessiveness with what I did, had it not been those early day obsessiveness with going out, what I read, that I would not have got those other things after that. I would not have got that trust. I would not have built that trust with myself to say, Jermaine, you've done the work. You've already proved to yourself you can do the work, dude. All right, now let's take all this proving and let's implement this into something. So when I decided to go to a different gym and I found out, I mean, God works in mysterious ways. Let me tell you something. Our cars broke down. I'm in a brand new car right now. This is my wife's car. We're down to one vehicle, but this thing has all types of things. I mean, I can start it with my phone. I mean, it's crazy. It's a wild, but it's technology. What I'm saying is we was willing to settle for something else. That door closed on us, and they said, no, take this 2018 that will remote start, guys, heated everything, does all this and that, and I done drove luxury cars. So it's not that I'm impressed with it, but I'm impressed with what God can do when I think that there's no further hope. But I say all that to say this. When I went to switch gyms and the gym said, well, it opens up at 4 o'clock. I said, wow. I said, well, that's another opportunity because I got to get my wife to school. I got to get Silas to school. I got to get Sanaya to daycare. And then I still got to get back and get my day started. So that's a lot of things that have to take place because we're restricted to one vehicle. But here's the deal, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to complain because we could have been restricted to being locked out of our house. We could have been restricted to a lot of other things. We could have been restricted to not having enough food to eat. We could have been restricted. So when the restriction is not as bad as something that you've ever experienced in your life, it's no longer a restriction. It's a blessing. You get through it and you shut the fuck up and do it. Right? So I said, wow, man, that's such a blessing. But I said, man, how am I going to get up and get to the gym on time to do that? How am I going to take advantage of this 4 o'clock time? And if you look at your clock right now and see what time I'm on this live video, it's 3:24 a.m. See, I wanted to go live because this isn't, I do videos every single morning. This isn't a video that's saying, oh man, he probably pre-recorded this at 5, 6 o'clock. No, dude, I'm really up. I'm really rolling. I'm really in downtown Phoenix looking at where they're building this Fry's grocery store down here. There's nobody on the streets. Let me flip this camera around if I can. There's really nobody out here. There's the Hard Rock right there. I'm saying this to say that I made adjustments. I made the necessary adjustments. And what I did was, because my obsessiveness in the beginning instilled in me a trust within myself, I said, Jermaine, listen, you don't need to make that big old breakfast. Your body is already used to eating a certain way. It doesn't crave 5,000 calories. It doesn't crave needing to be fed like this. It just craves food to fuel your body. It doesn't need anything else. I don't crave food just for food. I crave it when my body says I crave it when it says my body needs energy. That's when I crave it. Let me go around this truck. And with that said, the fact of the matter is I had to adjust some things. I had to say, okay, you know what? Since I'm not going to be able to make the breakfast I want, I'll be able to get dressed in time and be out the door by 3 o'clock. That way I can be sitting at the gym by 3:30, inside the door by 4 o'clock, worked out, back home by 5 o'clock, time to read my book, time to play with my kids, maybe make them some breakfast. And then get them off to school early where they don't feel like they're being rushed. Get my wife to her school so she doesn't feel like she's being rushed. I'm making the adjustments because I trust myself. I trust myself. And it's real hard to do that. It's real hard to trust yourself and make those adjustments when all you've ever done was lie to yourself. Right? What did you lie about? Maybe it was a relationship you knew you should have left, but you keep fucking around with that. I'll tell you one thing about my past relationships. If the shit wasn't good, it wasn't good. I'm not staying, dude. It ain't gonna happen. One thing that being in prison taught me is that, shit, if I ain't got to be tied down to you, and if I ain't got to be locked down with you, I ain't gonna be tied down or locked down with you. That's one thing prison taught me, because I didn't have an option when they shut that door. They had the key. Now I got the key. And when I got the key, I got the ability to say what I will or will not put up with. And I exercise that right to the fullest. To the fullest of who I am, I exercise that right. So simply put, because I trust myself, I was able to say, hey, make this adjustment. Instead of doing this, why don't you do this? Why don't you get dressed first? That way, if you got time afterwards, you could probably, I don't know, I made me a little protein shake. Maybe I could just make a protein shake. Yesterday, I had enough time to throw some egg whites in a pan, throw some spinach in there, open up a half avocado, stuff it in there, and cram that thing down my throat, and I'm out. Because a part of my journey has been, I don't need food just for food. I love food. I cook in my house all the time. I love cooking good things for my family, but I don't eat those things. I'll cook great things for them, but I don't eat those things. What I'm trying to say is my journey has taken me to certain levels in life where, one, I'm not the same person I used to be. But two, I trust myself enough to make adjustments and know that I'm making the adjustments based on my experience. I understand that. If you don't trust yourself, it's going to be real hard to make the decisions that you need to make. Because when you don't trust yourself, that voice inside of you just seems like it's you're crazy. Like, hey, dude, I'm crazy. No. When you start trusting yourself, when you start telling yourself the truth, when you look in the mirror and you say, no, this shit didn't happen because of somebody else. This happened because of me. This is my fault. This on me. I'll fix this. This on me. I wasn't humble enough. I wasn't willing to do the work. I cheated when I said I wouldn't eat that. Or when I went and talked to some other woman behind my wife's back. I did that. See, it's real hard to trust yourself in any decision when you know within yourself. It don't matter what you tell the world. You tell the world whatever you want. You can put on the smiley face. You can tell them you're doing good. You on top of the world. You can do all those things. Right now, I'm busted and disgusted. I don't even know how I'm in a 2018 vehicle, but God. But God. But I can tell you this, at the end of this story, I'll have something to share with my kids and take them through. If you don't trust yourself, you're not going to trust yourself to make adjustments, the adjustments that you need. And when you don't trust yourself, you don't trust that voice inside of you. And when you don't trust that voice inside of you, you're not following by the God-given instinct that was placed inside your body before you was even created, before you was even a tingling of a thought in your daddy's eye. You won't be able to have the necessary tools to navigate this world. Problems exist, but that voice inside helps navigate. It is an internal, natural navigating tool. Period. That's the only way that I'm up at 3:30 in the morning. That's the only way that I was able to adjust my schedule to make sure that I got out on time. That was the only way that I made the decisions that I've made, is because over the time I have managed to give myself the opportunity to tell the truth. Tell the truth to myself. First and foremost. First and foremost. That's where it starts with. That's where your healing starts. That's where, trust me when I say this, that's where your healing starts at, is when you start telling yourself the truth. When you start owning up to your responsibility and stop blaming other people for what's going on in your life. It was my obsessiveness with losing weight that allowed me to have faith in myself to have a hamburger for the first time in probably a year yesterday, or Sunday after church, when we were celebrating my son's birthday. My oldest. Because I trusted myself to know that it didn't have to go any further than that. A great person told me, you can eat whatever it is that you want. You just can't eat it all the time. You can't eat it all the time. Period. And that's powerful, because that's something, it's really resonating with me. That's really powerful. Wow. When you start to tell yourself the truth, when you start to tell yourself the truth, voices start to open up to you. And at the end of the day, here's the deal. You're more responsible for the things that happen around you and to you than you think. And even if you don't think you are, if there's power in taking responsibility, you should find every which way and area to take that. I'll give you an example. You're getting ready to make a turn. Another car is making a turn. That car hits you. Now, I'm not saying you got to take responsibility to the police, to the court, to your insurance company. That's not what I'm saying. But the responsibility that you take to yourself, that responsibility is something different. That responsibility is a different power. And let's be honest, I'm still very hard on my kids. I'm still very hard on my wife. I got to check myself sometimes. I got to say, dude, you're not in prison no more. This isn't boot camp 101, dude. Relax. Chill. Give them their space to make their mistakes. Give them their space to find their voice. Give them their opportunity. You don't have to try to make everybody walk down the same path you're walking on. So that obsessiveness can get a little bit out of control. But the fact of the matter is, that obsessiveness for me has made me trust me. And when I trust me, I trust the things that are inside of me, and I trust the things that come to me in spirit. And when you trust the things that come to you in spirit, you start moving differently. You start reacting. You start getting up in the middle of the night, scribbling stuff down on a pad of paper because you don't want to forget what the spirit just talked to you about. You don't just dismiss it as, empty jargon. You appreciate it. You appreciate it. So had it not be for my discipline, my obsessiveness, my compulsiveness to wanting to become better. And I remember the day I had always been striving towards being rich. It's always been a dream of mine. But I was never striving towards being great. And I remember the day. And I remember where I was sitting at. And I remember who I was talking to. And I remember what they instilled in me. And I remember what was told to me. And I know I just got an email from them yesterday sharing something very deep with me. And I just got a message from them asking if I could do them a huge favor that I had no problem with doing the other day. Because I remember the day that I started saying that I needed to change me. Because if I change me, then things around me will start to change. But if I stay the same, everything around me stays the same. And when I started having kids, it became even more important to me that I became a different person, that I became a different father, that I started a new legacy, that I started a different trend, that I started learning how to be different. But it starts with trust of self. If you don't trust yourself, meaning if you've made yourself out to be a liar too many times, today is the day that you look in the mirror and you say, this is on me. This ain't on my relationship. This ain't on my baby mama. This ain't on my baby daddy. This ain't on nobody but me. Me. And at that point, you'll see that change will start coming in the form of your God-given voice inside. And it won't matter what nobody says, nobody does, nobody thinks. Because you'll know what the truth is inside. All right?